All right, welcome back to the program. My guest is joining me right now, my first guest actually, Professor Adeola Adenikinju. He's the president of Nigerian Economic Society. Prof, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
When you have a professor of economics on set with me, I enjoy days like this, you know. Prof, let me start with this question. With what has been happening in the country, at least in the last few months, do you think, what are you economists thinking? Especially for you as a professor of economics, and we have a lot of professors of economics. Is it that our economy is not responding like a doctor that is treating a patient and the patient is not responding to medicine and to drugs or treatment? What are you all, professor of economics, talking about? Is it our economy is not responding, or our economy is peculiar, like the word is peculiar, or we have to Nigerianize some of the theories that a professor of economics teach us in school, or we are just beyond redemption?
Okay, thank you. I don't think Nigeria is different from the textbook case, as it were. Economics is ruled by laws of demand and supply. As simple as that law is, it has a lot of implications on how the system works. And anytime you try to interfere with that law, okay, then it creates problems. So part of the challenges we've had, or we are having now, is because, one, we are trying to move from a state where you have a lot of control and, to where you want the market to rule. And when you want the market to rule, there are also laws. There are also things that you need to put in place for the market to work efficiently. And one of the things that we also must know is that adjustment is painful, whether we like it or not. Okay? And that's why it's very important that whoever is driving reform or driving adjustments must also spend time to communicate. Okay? You must provide direction. You must know clearly where you are going so that the market participants themselves can respond to what you're trying to do. So that's part of the issue that we have. But the reality, as it were, and I think I tell people this if they don't like it, to a point that adjustment is going to be painful. Okay, we have legacy issues we're trying to address. And moving to that other state, we create issues. There are people that there are people that also resist those kind of changes when they come. But more importantly, the person who is driving it must have a very clear direction as where it's going.
Are you seeing that already? Is there a clear communication from this administration? I also call it information management. The management of information from this administration, even across CADA, not coming even only from the president, but even his fellow colleagues, like he calls them. Last week, I think last week I was at the NESG. The president was there in the room on Monday. Yes, on Monday last week, isn't it? And he tried to communicate to all of us in the room. I said, okay, please come up. My colleagues, he was referring also to the ministers, apart from the president, to other officials. Are you seeing even clear information management? Even from the Apex Bank, I'll be talking very soon about the Naira, the currency depreciation, with my next guest. In terms of information management coming in from the Apex Bank, and even from the finance ministry and from other ministries.
Now, let me just say this. Sometimes early this year, I made a presentation somewhere on subsidy removal. And I told them very clearly that, look, when you are transmitting, when you are moving from where we were to where, to this current state, their information is very important. And I said, look, I will expect the administration, just like it happens in the American system, where almost every evening, the press secretary to the president is addressing the press. It's, people are raising issues. She's able to calm, nerves. She's able to explain why they do what they're doing. I'm afraid I'm not seeing much of that. You see, and any time you create that kind of vacuum, there are all kinds of other things that will fill up, okay? There are negative news that will fill up. There are wrong notions that will fill up. There are assumptions that will fill it. And that's where I'm a little bit worried. And after some time, you may even think that you lack direction because you are not really communicating where you are going. You are not anchoring expectations. We are not letting people know that this is what we're trying to do. We're in charge of what you are doing, and we know the directions where we're, So I think, in my view, and like I said, I've said this, in other fora, that the gap in terms of communication is long, and and I think that's part of the problem we have, in my view, some of the economic issues that we have now, challenges that we have.
Because we saw it even in the last administration, there was a huge gap there. Even the Minister of Finance, I can count how many times she actually even spoke to press. In fact, then, if we were to get, she's always like shying away from us, Yes, I can clearly say that now. Even her handlers, they know I'm not saying anything that is not true. They know, But you're clearly right in terms of information, communication needs to be better, especially with the president that says I want to embark on reforms.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't just be hearing from the president, because the president will say the general thing, but we need the nitty-gritty and the breaking down from his lieutenants.
I fully agree with you, and this administration can do a lot better. Because like I said, when you are doing reforms, there are so many changes that are taking place, and you must be able to direct, you must show that you're in control, you know where you are going. Even when people are saying, people are panicking, you must be able to anchor, you must be able to give them directions and hope that we know where we're going and this is what you are doing. And that communication must be very regular. It's not something that comes once in a while, and people had already taken positions or they form some, expectations. So I think we need to do that more. Or this government needs to do that more, in my view.
In fact, Prof, I think you're just spot on, because even for me, I know how many questions I've tried to answer in the last few weeks, especially with the Naira going zigzag. People will see me and say, Nancy, where is this how we'll continue? Where do you see the Naira? Madam Nancy, now so we go the day. Even as much as, even yesterday I went to a plaza, I went to just get something. I can tell you, like, while I was entering the plaza, 3 people that recognized me were like, Madam Nancy, now so our economy go there. I was trying to explain when it's not really, I'm not the one in charge. Where will the Naira be? And I've been trying to explain, let alone those that are handling the job.
Yeah, they should do that. Really, that's their responsibility, and I think they need to do a lot more in that direction.
Now, you talked earlier about states, when the state is like trying to reform to ensure now that market forces take over. And that's what economists like you two have been saying in the last few years. But we're seeing that it's seemingly not working, because, yes, they say, okay, Naira, flow to the Naira. Everybody flow to the Naira. Oh, central bank, don't hold the Naira. Oh, you've held it for a long time. Let market forces come into it. Now we've seen what is happening. So what will you say the relationship between states and market forces, especially for a developing economy? How much can we leave? How much elasticity do we leave for market forces? For a developing economy that is highly dependent on imports, that your Naira is not strong. I'm trying to understand that theory.
No, you're right. And again, that's why you have to do your homework well. Okay, market works and market is good, but there are times that also you need to know how the process, the stages, when to do what, and the conditions precedent, on some of these changes. If you recollect, we cast our mind back, and it's always good as Nigerians to cast our mind back to what happened. Okay, before this new administration came in, a lot of Nigerians, including commentators, were worried that we have these many rates, in the markets. Okay, you have the official market rate. You have even multiple windows, even within the official at times, okay? You'd also have the, what we call the borough or the parallel market rate, okay? And people are aware about the gap between the two, okay? That, look, this is an evidence of inefficiency. So people are calling for a change. So we must remember that a lot of us, a lot of Nigerians were calling for that. That is not sustainable. Because one is affecting planning. People are, investors are not willing to come because they see that the Naira was not reflecting the true value to us. Now, government wants to move, okay, to change that course. But then you have to be able to know when to do it, okay? You also need to know, okay, look, what are the conditions precedent? And to also anchor, where are you going? What is this rate going to be? So there should be a lot of data, a lot of studies that have to be done so that, you plan appropriately, okay? And then you also look at, scenarios, okay? If what will happen now is happening, okay, then what you need to do to respond, okay? You see, what I see as part of the problems in my view, okay, is that some of the volatility we have seen are not necessarily driven by fundamentals, okay?
That's in the currency market.
In the currency market.
Apparently, yes.
So you also see people who are speculating. You have people who are, moving from Naira to dollar because of the uncertainty in the systems. And again, because like I said, people, they don't feel, some people don't feel that the government has clear direction or clear hold, okay, on the direction. So that's why it's very important that when you are embarking on this journey, you must be able to have a clear, some direction as to what is going to happen and what you will do at every point when this happens, okay? So, and that's why that communication comes in, okay? To create some level of confidence for the people, to let them know that you know where you are going and what you are going to do. So in my view, part of it, it's not just the market that has issues, because it's not fundamental that is driving what you have now. It's also because there are some problems that, and maybe can I call it lack of, people don't feel that government should have to be, there should be some plan. So some people that maybe there's some plan, okay? You just throw it away and you just go and fold your arms, okay? And some guys are saying, okay, maybe, and then some of the revelations about the foreign reserves we have, the net foreign reserves, okay, also create problems. Some of the negotiations, some of the, what government said about the $3 billion that will come in, that was not coming on time. Again, people are not explaining why that's not happening. So people felt there's a lack of confidence, if I can use that word in Naira, and that's part of what is driving this. Once we get hold, if government gets hold of what is going on and is able to communicate clearly, and people see a path, then you will see a difference in what is going on in the rate. Do
you think that they are trying to get a hold on it? Do you think, are you seeing that semblance of them in charge?
The governor said that it is a bottom-up, whether the governor or the minister of finance, that it has bottom-up now, and that they see, and there's a $10 billion Naira that is going to, $10 billion that's going to come into the system, and we are saying, okay, where is going to come from the NLNG, and
exactly.
also from the $3
billion
okay,
dividends.
Again, so there should be those communications, and the timing is also very important. Where this is, so there should be milestones. This is what you're going to do, this is going to happen, so that you create confidence. Market is about the confidence. It's about confidence.
As the new president of the Nigerian Economic Society, so congratulations, I know that.
Thank you so very much.
What is the role of your association? I mentioned earlier, speaking to economics like you, and I suppose that in this society, people like us are not even there. I know there are professors of economics. There are many of you there. What is the role of your association in terms of helping the government, achieve better outcomes right now? Because it's one thing to speak in this kind of fora. Last week I mentioned I was at the NESG, which is another economic society. The president was there. There were a lot of government officials, ministers. There were a lot of topics. I moderated a few. So if you take a look at that, you're seeing that as what I heard from government officials, okay, we are ready to listen to you guys. Also help us where you can. So what can your association also do to assist the government to get better outcomes?
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Nancy. And let me also assure you should be part of us, because, you are doing so much. You see, I think we have to, during my time, one of the things I was discussing with the council is how to bring in so many other people. Okay, the NES is one of the oldest professional groups association in Nigeria. It was actually started in 1957 or thereabouts. So we just
1957.
57.
Before our own independence.
Wow. And then you have the renowned economists, Professor Boyade, Samaluko, a whole lot of those people that play a very important role. Chief Philip Asiodu and the rest of them, those powerful men, they were the brainchild of this society. And at that time, there was a very good interface between the government, the policymakers, and the economists. Because the reality is that the Nigerian Economic Society has the umbrella of economists, professors, the students, the graduate students who are doing economics, professionals, those who are in research institutions, those who are in development institutions, all over the place. But maybe for some time, people had this perception that it's just for the professors. Okay, that this guy just talk about theory and things like that. So maybe we lost that relevance. But what we are trying to do now is to bring that inclusiveness into it. Because the reality is that, look, some of these policies that we want to put in place must be driven by data. There must be some theoretical foundations, analytical foundations around them. You don't just announce policies, okay? Because policies, and one of the things the economy does best, is the systemic part of policies. The fact that the economy is interlinked. Whatever decision you take here, you must be able to trace how that will impact not just on the sector or your primary area of the sector you are looking at, but throughout the economy. So that economy-wide implications is not what everybody has. People sit down and say, "Oh, when you do this, what will happen?" Economists will go out. What does theory tells you about it? What are the empirical evidence? What have happened in other countries? What is the literature that is in this place? And on the basis of that, you are coming with. Then you look at data. Okay, and you run your models or whatever it is, so that whatever policy that you are coming up is a policy that is driven by strong analytical basis. And in the past, that was what the Nigerian society used to do. The second national development plan for this country was by NES. In fact, the NES at some point, some few years ago, developed a macro model to help the budget and planning to support the national development plans. Okay, so I want to tell the government, and I think for some time now we have been excluded. For instance, the tariff reform committee that was set up, the economists and the Nigerian society is not represented. That is unheard for. In fact, until President Buhari, the president of Nigerian Economic Society is a member of a economic management team. Because that's where you really need, we're not driven by profit. We're not just looking for, we are driven by the fact that, look, evidence must drive policy. You must be able to evaluate policies. You must be able to look at impact of policies, not just on the primary impact, but the secondary effect, to know that the net effect. You must be able to answer the question, which groups will benefit, which groups will lose from any policies, and how do you compensate for those who will lose? That's what economists do. And that's what this government needs to, recognize also.
So I hope that your society is also trying to engage with government on that, because it's also one thing to reach out. Sometimes they may not actually know. I've heard a lot of people in several quarters in the last few weeks saying, some of these people in government, they need help. Nancy, this person needs help. Nancy, this minister needs help. And you will clearly see that they really need help. But it's one thing to reach out, and it's also another thing for them to be receptive to the form of support that comes to them. Now, that takes me to the question of fuel subsidy. The removal of fuel subsidy and what this administration is doing in terms of protecting the poor and the vulnerable. The president also announced just a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks, October 17, if I'm not mistaken, 25,000 Naira monthly, 75,000 Naira for 3 months to assist the poor and vulnerable amongst us. What do you think about this? Because just like you said, it's one thing to have a policy, it's one thing to communicate, it's one thing that the people that you want to assist also understand, So how will you assess that?
Yeah. Okay, the way I look at it is this. One, again, in my view, I think the government lost out the arguments around fuel subsidy. Okay. Even the initial support that he had, because when it came in, when people were interviewed on the street, so people said, let this subsidy is causing us so much wahala. Let it go. Okay. But again, there was vacuum. And then, some of the things that happened. Anywhere where you remove fuel subsidy, okay? Again, that's why literature is very important. That's why economists, because very important, knowing this, is that everywhere you remove fuel subsidy, there are things that you need to do. There are short-term palliatives, okay? And those are basically targeted at the vulnerables, because those guys are going to slip in
further into poverty.
If you don't help them. So they need help. And so those help is not meant for the middle class or the elites. And that's why, when those opera come, what to 25,000, 8,000 Naira or whatever amount it is, what do they do? It's not meant for them. To some people, that 8,000 naira, it was a lot of money. Because at that time, look at what is the minimum wage, 30,000. 8 over 30,000 is almost 30%. That's a lot of difference for some people at that time. It was money for those people. But then in the public and the press, it was meant like, oh, what 8,000? How can you pay 8,000? It's meant for those who are going to sleep on that, who really need it, want to buy drugs. Yes, want to buy drugs, they will not be able to buy because costs have gone up, who will not be able to afford food. It's meant for them. And those are short-term palliatives. Then you then have the medium term. Okay, those are immediate. Right? You then have other things that you need to do to cushion the effects. Like they were saying, especially switching, looking at alternatives, the mass transit system, expedition switching system, that will also come in to take care of the larger group of people, not the poor, not the rich. Okay, so in my view, it's though late, but not too late. I mean, what government is trying to do by paying that amount, and they are trying to clean up the
system,
the register, so that you are really targeting these goods to those who are really need data. I think it's in order. Okay. But then the other thing that they have to do, which is, the mass transit system, the switching to gas, gas, power, this is very important. Diverting some of these savings, as it were, if those savings are still there, because again, now, if you look at the reality is that with the exchange rate going up, I don't know, I mean some say that through the back door, some subsidy is back. Okay?
Exactly.
So that is the reality. But I think they lost that opportunity to actually reform that sector. Because I tell people, yes, when you remove, and it's not fuel, really, it's petrol. Because of that fuel, the poor people are paying for kerosene. Diesel is controlled by market. It's just this thing that is the elite control that is created higher. When it was removed on the kerosene that poor people consume, the elites, nobody shouted. The poor people now buy kerosene for 1,500 naira. Nobody is protesting on their behalf. Okay?
Which is also expensive,
which
and
is
also eating into their meager incomes.
Nobody cried at that time. Okay, so what government should have then done is promote gas. Gas is a better alternative. Make it affordable to these people, not just the price of the gas, but even the equipment, the infrastructure for using the gas. Okay, the burners and the rest of them, make them available. People can bring them at cheaper rates, and they can become affordable to the people.
Okay, Prof, I think we'll leave it at that. I will say I enjoyed my conversation with you this few minutes. I said it at the beginning. I always like having professors of economics.
Yeah, professor too.
I'm not. But I always like.
We are bringing you to NES. Really, we have to bring you in.
That would be so nice.
The next conference, you are going to help us moderate some of the things because we are building it up. There will be policy, policy forum and the rest of them, not just us talking theories and the US, the Y, and those things.
The experts, what is
what
is the Z?
People are saying, look, get out. You guys are just talking to yourself. Now we want to be inclusive, really.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you.
I look forward to engaging with you later. All right, I've been speaking with Professor Adeola Adenikinju. He is the president, Nigerian Economic Society. You've been hearing his view about the Nigerian economy and, of course, what government needs to do in terms of information.